create filters so it automatically goes to your trash.
Good evening. This is the January 30th meeting of the Master Plan Implementation Committee. We'll call the meeting to order at 7:05. And first order of business, public comment. Hearing none. Moving on to the review, approved summary of January 14, 2019 meeting.
Right off the bat, I noticed that the first line said January 14th, 2018, so that's fixed.
Yes.
That's fixed, and I did have, I had a couple of email responses, but they really were follow-ups to what people had said. You sent me something, and Chris sent me something that I didn't think belonged in the minutes because they were not part of the actual meeting. They were follow-up to what we talked about.
Okay.
So that
makes sense.
There's no other changes to the minutes as I originally created them, unless people have comments.
They're fine with me.
I didn't. I thought they were good. I liked this is a small thing, but I like the fact that you note that we didn't tape or transmit live.
Yeah, I like that too.
I think it's good just for people who watch it, because when they don't see one, they're going to ask the question, what did they talk about?
Exactly, and I have had public comments about people that say they're actually watching these. Hi there, glad you're watching, because it's important. We appreciate the interest.
Well, I appreciate how thorough your minutes are because I do not have that talent to create
I'll second that.
set minutes.
Now, this is recorded, it's not live broadcast.
Oh, so I said it wrong?
Oh, no, I'm just saying, you waved
The
to somebody
meeting was
out
not
there,
taped
you know,
nor transmitted live.
Just
Well,
say-
it wasn't.
Just say not taped.
That's all.
Well, it's
Oh,
true.
okay.
It is
no,
neither.
that's interesting, because someone told me they're
Well, you might be able to
watching it
stream
live.
them. You might be able to stream them live.
Oh, all right. This individual said she has watched it live. Good. I assumed it was live. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe she went back and watched it later. Apologies if I misunderstood her.
It's in my spam.
Oh, I
sorry.
got spammed.
Okay.
Rats.
All right, I get everything else from you, though. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Minutes. So,
I thought they were good. I like the capturing the one-stop committee idea. I think that's something important to hold on to. Obviously moving, staying on chapter 4, what we want to do today.
Well, it was good because I wasn't here. I really felt like I had been here reading it, so
Yeah.
that's...
They're very thorough.
oh, the one change was Francine stating, and she did state it that night, that she would check to see who was Southampton's current MPO representative. I did make that one change in the minute.
Yes.
And you subsequently, I don't know if
Yes.
you found out, but...
And as far as I know, what I just heard tonight, actually, I got my answer tonight.
Oh, I see.
And John Martin has been approved by the committee, and he will be notified officially in the next week or so.
By MPO,
But we do, yes.
and we'll be notified
So
by
he is
them.
replacing Charlie.
Okay, so that's for tonight's
Okay,
meeting.
that's good.
So is there a motion?
Is there a motion?
One second.
Second. All in
Okay.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I guess we
Next.
can say aye.
So, keeping with the same agenda, review, discuss chapter 4. So, just a little recap. So, some of the things we had left with, are we meeting our bylaw requirements? Post-mortem on previous developments. So, we had talked about the inclusionary bylaw. That was one of the items. We talked about, and I had a note here, what do the residents want? Adults, children, seniors, question mark. Open Space Committee is the focus, and the open space guidelines need to be updated. So that was the takeaway I got from Marla. I think she had held up the book and said that they needed to be.
Not open space. That was the, something in recreation. What is it I'm trying to say? It's not the open space. Maybe open space is in there, but it's It's right in here. It's in the
Yeah, it's in the
book.
minutes
Okay.
here somewhere.
It's in here.
Open space and recreation plans.
Yes.
That's what it was.
It's not the open space committee, that's quite different. Okay, so open space and rec plan needs update.
Yep. And there was a focus around a lot of the things we talked about were in that, right? So we're talking about them here, but we know it needs to be updated, then it's something to be looked into.
So is that something that the open space committee and the recreation, Parks and Recreation could collaborate on? Or
I
is
think
or is it more
I think there's
conservation?
overlap,
Okay.
in the sense that, as I told you in the last meeting, did we know in the last meeting that we've gotten 2 grants? Were you aware of that at the last meeting? I can't remember when
I
that
think we
information came
talked
out.
about it, but we
I
didn't.
think one grant was announced.
So
Subsequently, the
what the
$400,000 grant has been approved.
Yeah. Oh,
The land
okay.
grant for the town, that's very big. But what we got was what's called the neighborhood grant. In fact,
Education grant or?
yeah,
It was in the paper a couple days ago.
it was
Yeah.
because Diana Fetterman sent a press release and was
Nice.
finally, and it's called the, sorry, I will tell you in a moment, wait a minute here. Well, anyway, it's like $10,500, and the whole idea is developing a list of priority lands to consider conserving, approaching the landowners. That's right in the master plan. You can find where it is, because I can't at this moment. And it's for the outreach grant, neighborhood outreach grant. That's one of the goals of this grant. Secondly, it's also meant to educate landowners in general about what they have options to do. Do they want to conserve their lands? Do they want to get the federal tax deduction as a possibility? There are many approaches. That's all under planning right now. Open Space Committee meets tomorrow night. And we also just got an email from this gentleman at UMass named, his name is not Contanzaro. He's the one that is sort of working with the grant winners to utilize these grants, and he's putting together some mailings. Fortunately for us, that's going to be at the cost of his department within UMass to educate them. That's going to be one step. There's going to be meetings that we have speakers at, including somebody that can speak to the legal aspect, the financial aspect, the naturalist aspect, the sort of the geophysical aspect to issues. That was all in the news
Ecology.
article. You remember that?
Yep.
The ecological, recreational, etc. So and remember Diana talked a little bit about that at the last meeting. She mentioned, if you thought of great speakers, email her. So that's going to start gearing up really, really soon. Has to be completed by mid-June, totally. Receipts sent for reimbursement. That's how big this is. So
Fast it is.
a lot of us are developing some stress related to all this, But, so we'll be working on that. Does that answer your question? There will be some overlap because it'll help to meet, I think, what's going to be needed for the open space and rec plan data to
Yeah.
update their plan.
Yeah, and I was actually just going through the list of goals, just trying to see if one stood out as that fits the bill, right? That's something that, and there could be one in here that's very close to that.
Yep.
It could be something that's incorporated in there as well. One of the goals being establish and develop a relationship with existing land trusts in the region. We're kind of ongoing, and I think this adds to that because it'll open doors to new resources. Thought I saw another one in here, but it's something to definitely.
Yes, they do link in, and there are overlaps. And we who are very interested in having the town embrace what is in the master plan, basically. It's not like we're making this up. We just believe this is what the town wants, to have a really on base with that. In fact, the picture that was in the newspaper of the board down here in front of the trading post, wasn't there a picture in the newspaper?
No, not the article I saw.
It said,
The article was forwarded to
Unless
me.
you're talking about like the electronic version.
No.
The online, no?
and it said the board had a message, I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, it said the
I
people
saw it.
came and the people spoke, and it was the same
Right.
thing we posted right after the big vote last summer, and I was credited with that, because I wanted to put that up, so. Good.
I think it's good. This is, you talk about ideas for speakers, someone with community engagement experience, right? Someone that can help the town with engaging more residents, engaging more property owners, engaging the public in the use of the property, and expanding on, we'll call it Chapter 4, right? Expanding on some of the things that are in here and helping us to meet those goals. Which, I'll be frank, after I went through the spreadsheet, the goals in Chapter 4, I think a lot of them are pretty attainable. There's sort of, a lot of them are coined short-term or ongoing. There are some long-term, but there's definitely some room in there to make good progress.
Well, there's a lot of promotion, presentation, education kind of stuff.
Which may fall into this, and I don't know, when we talk about the goals and completing these goals, is it we did it once, the goal's done? Or is it something that needs to be reoccurring, or something we revisit, and that will we may have to seek some direction on how, like that.
There are, just looking at them, and there are a couple of goals that I think leave out important committees that I think should be part of the goal pursuit. And one is, hold a series of public presentations about the benefits of cluster development. We're building homes closer together and so forth. Housing is not among the
Right.
ones.
Oh, that's right.
I mean, that to me is like a huge gap.
Agreed.
So in addition to going through the goals, I now want to see, in fact, whether or not this makes,
It's comprehensive.
since this has been done, are there other committees, or do we look at it a little bit differently and maybe invite others to participate? Yeah, 4-1B.
Yeah.
Yep. So the one thing, and I think we're going through the process the right way by reviewing the chapters, but we may reach a point, I think maybe even next meeting, where we may have to break off and have a person or a few people double back to some of the goals, and maybe like on I want to say on the free time, right, but go through and double check, because we could do it all here, but it'd take a long time if we kind of lean on a park and recreation resource to double back and make sure that's good, highlight in red, whatever you add, make sure it's in red or highlight in yellow, so we know what we changed and say, this is what we felt should have been updated, and we keep moving forward with the chapter review, but then we're also cleaning up the goal and strategy section as we go. It may be something to look at.
I will say one thing, on 4-6C, there is a recreation commission noted, so I don't know if parks is recreation also. I have page 82.
4-6C,
Yeah.
develop a plan to enhance quality.
Page 182?
No, 82.
82.
Oh, page 82.
Oh, in the actual spreadsheet, there's nothing in
Just
there.
going back to the section, I was doing the shortcut version.
Oh yeah, I'm on like the actual.
What's your question? I didn't hear you.
Well, there's a recreation commission and then there's a parks commission. I don't think they're the same, or if recreation still exists.
Oh, I don't know.
You're saying Marla isn't on open space, but a different one, right? It was.
Marla's on Conservation Commission. She's the chair.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's also on Open Space, representing the Conservation Commission.
But I think you're right. I don't think we have a recreation
We don't
commission,
have
we
a
have a
Department of
parks.
Public Works.
Oh, it's true. That either.
You don't?
No.
And like for
What do we
Conan
call it? Oh, the
Park,
highway department. They call them the highway department.
Yeah, but I think Public Works is probably a little more inclusive than our highway department.
Public Works is everything. So Public Works, if we had Public Works in this
Water.
town, it would be
Include
highway, water,
Right.
sewer.
So first of all,
Lighting.
we don't have actual Public Works, Department of Public Works, nor do we have a Recreation Commission.
Right.
yeah, so this is out of
And those are perfect things that, you know, we should update.
yeah.
And so for this reason, I don't know.
We have a
to me, like-
recreational needs committee.
We do?
According to the website, we do.
Yeah, because like for Conan Park, that should probably
There's no members.
be the park commission.
Parks Commission, right. If it's specifically about
They
Conan
need
Park.
members.
So as much as I appreciate, Mike, your idea of breaking this off into smaller, you know, just to get that facilitated, just this conversation, a group of one or two might miss some of the
Right.
things that we're hitting here. So, I don't know, to me, while this is kind of, you know, this is exhaustive, everyone seems dedicated to hitting this and or another strategy could be, and I don't know if this would really save any time, is have a couple people look at a chapter, but then they bring it back to the whole committee to say what they saw and people can comment on it. I don't know if that would prevent anything from being missed, but I just worry if just one or two are looking, they might miss, would have missed the rec
Yeah.
piece. I
Yeah,
don't-
me too.
I still can't find it.
I thought that what Mike was
Responsible
suggesting,
party.
that we divide up some of the work and then follow up on the
Yeah, see, it's wrong in the-
individuals take
Right, in the
responsibility for
spreadsheet, it's
individual
totally
goals.
different.
Going back to
Yeah, that's all they had.
confirm what's been done on them, whether or not they've been achieved, and then bringing that back. That was my impression.
I thought he was just talking about looking at the goals and making sure they were complete, or if there was things missing.
Well, that too, but I guess we would all get, and then come back to the group and then one by one go through them. And I think eventually, hopefully, we get to the same place.
Yeah,
in terms
as long as we
of
come back to
our
the whole group,
understanding.
right.
Yeah,
Unless it's duplication of work, you know?
yes.
So,
So,
there's the risk of duplication, I'm sorry.
No.
But for me, and this is pretty important, some duplication might equate to being very thorough, and that might not be a bad thing.
So in the spreadsheet, it just needs, I mean, it's kind of,
Yeah, I just put them, I updated it to DPW and rec committee, and then in parentheses in red, I put don't exist.
right.
Because I don't want to change it
Yeah, they already-
and have it not show what was
But
there.
could we add a note that the Parks Commission would be a more suitable
Yeah.
representative for being responsible for it?
Yeah, I mean-
In red, or, you know, something like that we're changing. So that was one of the questions I had in my email is, what are we color coding to say
Right.
that this is what we're adding, or what we think should be different, or something? Because I don't think we can leave it as is, because it's not accurate.
So if we could set up a color coding system that everybody can follow.
Even if it's just red to add.
So that's what I did do
Okay.
there. Can you give me that blackboard?
Here we go.
So,
Okay, yep, I see what you did.
so it's tough because there's so much stuff, but I did mark it, DPW rec committee, don't exist, add park and rec committee, but you should also probably put open space.
True.
You know, and I think there's some conflicts in here because we talk about a park and rec committee, but they're not necessarily related to the open space. Passive recreation, I think maybe that was the term used, but sort of the low-impact recreation versus soccer, baseball,
Organized,
right, organized recreation.
Which are on the
as
parks.
opposed to disorganized.
Right. So, the other thing I did here, so I did start color coding. As you can tell, the formatting's a little off, so I will definitely hand it over, but I want to clean it up.
No, that's fine. I could clean it up too if you just want to hand it as is. It doesn't bother me.
When I started color coding target date, ongoing and short term were green, midterm was yellow, long term was red. I did a status column, complete is green, ongoing is yellow, and pending action is red. 3 simple colors. It can change, it can be modified, we can do whatever we want with it, but I just thought it was a very easy, at least for me, an easy way to initially look at it and see what's the balance between green and red.
That's
Nice
very
visual.
similar. That's very similar to what I did,
Yeah.
what I started doing, so it's perfect.
In some of these, I've gone through, as I'm highlighting them, I'm kind of reading them, and there's some that stick out to me like, do we already do this? Appoint a single point of contact to work with applicants and be responsible for coordinating the applicant's efforts to apply for necessary permits in town. Our building commissioner does kind of do that now, right? I know it's ongoing, but at what point do we consider this a success? Turns to green.
Because even though it's ongoing, it's a success.
Right.
That there's a
You would
system,
expect it
there's
to
a
be
plan
Right.
for it, there's a
We
process.
have
Not
it.
all the goals are completed and check them off. They're ongoing, but if they're completed, they're completed.
And if we've established that, I think it behooves us that, well, I guess if we established it, we should be committed to continue making it better, to continue improving it. So, for instance, that one, I would say it's complete. Even though it's ongoing, it still should be green, should be complete, because we should be doing that. There were other questions I had in here, and, as I had mentioned about either doubling back or having us double back as a group, we should probably look at, because there are things that I read and I see as well, are we, is that already done? Create a community group to help connect private owners of historic properties and coordinate historic preservation efforts throughout town.
Well, that's part of this grant. I mean, that could be met by this grant.
It could, but also we have a historical society and a historical commission, which if you're John Smith from historic number East Street and you're interested in the building, you're more than likely going to go to these groups. If you have that interest, you're going to seek out the help you need. You're going to go to these groups and they'll be able to guide you, and they may not be able to do everything for you, but are we meeting that sort of commitment and that goal? Because we have these groups established, we have resources, they're knowledgeable, they're good at what they do, and they can point you in a direction to do what you'd like to do to your property in a historical fashion,
So what you're suggesting, going back to how we maintain this document going forward, I think we should probably have a master plan improvement committee established permanent subsequent to this group.
Improvement or implementation?
No, we're the implementation.
Oh, and have an improvement committee.
Right. Someone who constantly,
Well, that improvement committee, this was only good for 15 years, so that improvement committee is going to have to start soon.
Yeah, it's true.
And all our goals, right? So our midterm goal is 6 to 10 years it's really our they're all long-term goals now if you scale them. So there were some I found that intermingled, a goal from chapter 8 intermingles with a goal from chapter 3. You can't do either without doing both. So, but some things that when we kind of get there, we'll go through. All right, so back to 4. I got the strategy 4-6C note, don't exist. Add park and rec committee, open space, in red. And these are sort of placeholder notes. We'll have to figure out how we want to categorize changes, right? Because you want to have all the old information, but you want to show your new information too. Strategy 4-7A. So we had this one done as complete. I would argue it's not complete until it goes to Westfield.
Not complete. We don't have a rail trail yet.
So that one came,
No,
well, we
this is
do,
what I put- I
right,
put
to
it
One
down-
Street.
I had it down as 75%, because there's still, no, we don't have it.
Okay.
It's to develop a rail trail along the existing rail bed.
It's from Easthampton to Westfield, right?
Right.
And maybe we reach a point where it's too challenging to get to Westfield, but at least continuing a little farther into town, East Street.
Christine reported,
It's all
yes,
verbatim what she
in her-
reported.
yes.
That
Right.
italicized
Yes.
part of the minutes
Was her
were her words
Yes.
that she forwarded to me.
so.
So you want me to go back
brings
to
us up
that?
to speed.
If-
Or do you have it? Because I can call it up again here.
I have it.
It's right here. So she said, she met with Mike Bueller, and the proposed Greenway bike trails connect Southampton from the Brickyard Road area to Coleman Road. That wouldn't actually go to Westfield, would it? Go as far as Coleman Road. As of February 6th, 2018, a letter of intent has been signed by the Pioneer Valley Railroad Company, and Southampton's town administrator represents a non-binding interest on the part of both parties and states that the town wishes to purchase a portion of the road corridor and the land improvement thereupon from Coleman Road to Brickyard Road near the intersection of Valley Road. The price for this right-of-way is $340,000. Railroad requests the Surface Transportation Board for permission to abandon rail service, and the town would request them to allow a rail banking process whereby the town assumes legal and financial responsibility for this area. Town meeting would have to authorize the Board of Selectmen to purchase this right-of-way and appropriate funds. Because of the rail banking procedure, CPC funds cannot be used. Environmental review of the proposed corridor has been done and did not reveal any particular surprises. Creosote in the railroad ties, for example, is known, and these would not be removed, but probably capped in some fashion. Engineering review was also done and found that the area was generally sound but needed some upgrading, likely where there are bridge areas. Bond bill has passed. If you're all looking at it, I don't mean to read all this. You can stop, I suppose, but Peter Cocot's no longer with us, so that was unfortunate. I don't know if Lindsay Sabadosa is on this.
No, we have to
She has so many
remind-
priorities. Yeah, I think it's,
I think she'd be receptive.
she would be absolutely receptive.
But she's coming, she has office
Office hours
hours
here.
on Tuesday here. It's from 10 to 1.
A week from yesterday, Tuesday,
On Tuesday?
or every
Tuesday?
No, once a month. And it just happens to be February 4th. I don't know if it's going to be the first Tuesday of every
Okay.
month. So I think things like this, and people, I don't know how many people know about it. It's on the town calendar, but I don't know how many people consult that. So,
And you're right, she has so many
Probably a good thing.
priorities.
right. But
So, I'm a little curious that was almost a year ago that the letter of intent was signed, and there's been no progress since then? It was almost a year ago.
The railroad's slow.
Ah,
Takes us 3 months to get a flagger to do work
Where are we going to
next
get
to a railroad. so-
340?
And that's just a guy who stands there and says, don't get hit by a train. So,
Alrighty then.
we would have to take,
Especially
we'd have
for
to
an
either
abandoned, then it really
Yeah.
slow
take a
on that.
loan or do
Yeah.
a bond.
I mean, realistically too, I don't know. So we, where I work, we procure easements to go over railroad tracks, sometimes to go under. And they're very stringent on their contracts. For instance, they usually retain all ownership rights and the ability to evict you from the premise at any point in time. So, I don't know how this plays into this. I don't think we're not buying the rights to the property. We're buying a right of way, which means they still own the property.
Right.
So that's, I don't know. I don't know if it's in a legal review or how that works, but they're very complicated.
This must be wrong then, because it says the town wishes to purchase a portion of the railroad corridor.
Well, wasn't there portions, they say, that the railroad doesn't own, that we would have to purchase? It's not, you think, who else would own it but the railroad? But I think Christine said there are portions of the bed that are no
Well, they
longer
may-
owned by the railroad.
So the railroad may not have been able to get they might not have been able to take it by eminent domain or through some sort of federal intervention, so they could have like legal right-of-ways with property owners in some cases. There may be situations where they just were not able to acquire the property. Without knowing every parcel and everywhere, it could happen.
Didn't she also say, and it's not in here, I don't think, that if for some reason the railroad needed it,
They could
that they
claim
would
it.
just come back and take it, and
Yeah.
they didn't see this in her
That is
notes,
eminent domain, right, that you could?
but they would take it back.
Well, see, so the paragraph here, town meeting would have to authorize the board of selectmen to purchase this right-of-way, right? So it's not property.
It's not property, right?
It's-
Correct.
And they do this, they retain the property and
And I wonder how difficult it would be for us to get a loan for something that we don't own. It's like
I mean, I
asking a
think
bank
if you
for loan to
were,
pay rent. Do they do that?
No.
you can ask the town floor, but I can't imagine that'd go over well.
No, I know.
Right? We'd like to borrow this
Yeah.
money. Our town's broke. We asked you for more money last year, and now we want this money to buy
The right of way.
a right-of-way,
Well, maybe they.
which isn't even in I mean, it's in perpetuity unless they decide one day, no, they don't want
Maybe
it.
I don't envision railroads coming back, but
No, I think for me, the place to step back in all these, furrowed brow concerns is, we're like one of the last to have a railroad bed that's converted to towns have done it
Right.
successfully and long-term.
How did they do it?
Right.
How was it done in
We're not
Easthampton?
inventing that wheel. We can just inquire.
no. But I think somehow the fact that we're doing this 15 years after everyone else did, some of the regulations may have changed, some of the terms and conditions may have changed.
possible.
That's why it's much more difficult
Things
for
may have
us.
tightened up from
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
I wish Chris was here tonight, and probably we should continue this when she comes back.
Yeah.
But, I'm a hiker, and and I do these outdoor things, and I'm with these people that are from other towns, and they're bikers and all, not when I mean bikers, I mean bicyclists, not bikers, and they cannot believe
Yeah.
that Southampton doesn't yet have this connection.
I think we're best known for that than
And-
anything else.
Right.
Other
We're the
communities.
missing link
The
to
missing
the
link.
Connecticut
It
border.
does drive us nuts that we can't walk down the street and get on the trail on East Street and just go.
Go.
Like, the road's it's not the best condition. It's not the best walking, so we usually drive somewhere and park and walk, which is not good, but it's safe, right? We'd love to be able to go down East Street, like 2 minutes, jump on and go, and
Yeah.
All
can't-
the way to Connecticut, and southern Connecticut, it goes right down through, and it goes north.
so we go to Pleasant Street and we, go up to
Yep.
Tandem sometimes. and-
Yeah.
No, yeah.
So, in addition to Christine, I mean, Mike Bueller, I'm sure, he lives lives across the street from me, I could just say to him, can you come to one of these meetings? I bet he would,
I think that's a great idea.
if we wanted some real clarification on this, because he has been deep into it. But I wouldn't want to supersede Christine if she feels capable and ready to educate us completely.
I'll put in the minutes that we want to continue to follow up with Christine who did the research.
Yeah.
I guess in terms of understanding what the next steps are and what anticipating some
Hearing.
closure on this.
Yeah. I'm volunteering Mike. I know him enough that he would. He is a very busy individual, so the timing would be difficult.
No, but he certainly cares about the
Yes, he's,
project.
yeah. And that's why I know he would.
He and Ann both do, yeah.
And what, I hate to go back, but I just want to know, maybe nobody here knows, why did we miss out 25 years ago?
The town voted against it.
And it was as simple as that. We voted against getting What, money from where?
No, we voted against having a bike path. My understanding, the town voted against having a bike path just simply because they didn't want the intrusion of people outside our community coming through our community. I was told they were fearful of all kinds of misdoings, like pedophiles, but
That's pretty
specifically.
typical of a lot of towns, though.
And I think the property owners who abutted also had
Right.
strong voice. That was
Also
my
pretty typical.
understanding.
Yeah.
The Woodies? Not in my backyard.
Not in my
Yeah.
backyard.
So, does this ring a bell with you guys? I mean, like, remember the history part? How 150 years ago, we didn't want to get, you know, any of those
Industrial
foreigners
revolution.
in here, you know, those
Right.
Canadians that might come down and
Oh, as far
do
as
bad
the
stuff.
industrial life?
Yes.
Yeah.
We are-
And
talk
I
about
agree with you.
consistent.
It's not
Yes.
uncommon, you know, people get very protective of
Yeah.
their home and their area, and
It's,
we are
I think it's
consistent.
I mean, it does,
rural communities, it's,
you know, there's an NIMBY factor, and then there's also the possible taking of property, right? So if they're non-railroad properties, but the railroad has the right, then we would look to have that right through the back of someone's property. Now, you may prefer a train over a rollerblader, but in general, the property owner may not be willing to give up that right, and they don't have to. But the next step is taking of property, which has happened in some towns. I know the town I'm from, they wanted to continue it, it'd be more east-west, and it would have been through the backyard of like a couple neighborhoods, and the town would have had to take property, and all the residents basically went to select board meetings, went to the mayor and said, no, we will all bring you to court if you come take the last 10 feet of our line of property. And it was a, you know, dense residential area. There was, you know, I understand it, right? I mean, you want to do this for the benefit of the people, but on the same token, that person paid for that property.
Right.
They want that right, you know. But if it's an existing right of way where you can make it work, then, you know.
But how did the other towns do it? I mean,
Yeah, I
up
don't
and
know.
down, they didn't have a clear path. Some of this had to occur.
I think what you had is you had enough desire on the other side of that coin. You know,
Right.
you have the natural property owner's rights and desires for privacy, and the perception, right or wrong, that, you know, it brings in crime or devalues their property, right or wrong, you have that. But then you have the will of the people who wanted this walkway, bikeway, and there was enough of that. And I do think the smaller towns, there's always not enough of that. So you look at the towns around, Easthampton, Westfield, those are bigger towns.
And they have different
Amherst,
forms of
Northampton.
government, too.
Yeah.
Right.
We have a
That
town
too.
meeting for the
Right.
government. I think that
Right.
could be a little
Yeah.
part of it.
Well, I mean, think about it too, a lot of these were Mass DOT, it was Mass Highway at the time probably, but Mass DOT projects, right? They run the projects, they hire the general contractor. I don't think a lot of these were town-managed things. So if it's Mass DOT related, then it's state and federal funding related, and it was probably easier to go to the larger towns and cities with mayors and say, you're up for transportation funding this year, we can redo 3 miles of rail for you. It's easy enough for the select board and the mayor to sign off on it, because that's, you know, 7, 8, 9 people versus 400 in a room.
Right, so how do towns
Or
like
worse,
Southwick or
150 in a room.
And you lobby
Southwick or
for those ones, too.
Belchertown do it, you know, because I don't think they have mayors, I'm not sure, so how,
They have a
did
town manager.
somehow, town manager.
Maybe.
But it could just be on, you know, different communities are, they're different, right? It could be on a
Belchertown's
more
full of
accepting,
students, they want to be,
right,
you know. yeah.
faculty, right, probably live close by. So many colleges, there's probably people that want that recreational aspect, and we're okay with it.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah.
And you never know who lobbied for it either, right? You know, who you knew in town, who they knew that could help with the funding.
But you know, it's a bigger issue. When I sit here and listen to you guys talk, we moved to town here 22 years ago, and I think that was approximately the time of the vote. And I was like la la land, because I worked in Springfield and I was really, really busy in my role. And I remember it went to vote, but I just wasn't tuned into any of it. 22 years have passed, the type of people involved things have changed a little bit, and those of us that are sitting in this room going, why didn't that pass? Why didn't that happen? I think that's a little bit of it. And that becomes the question, what do we want our town to look like? And what do we want?
Have we had a vote since then?
Not on this, I don't think, although there was something about the railroad a couple of years ago at town meeting, and it might have been to get the letter of intent.
I believe so, yes.
It was different than the acquisition, it was the letter of intent.
Right.
And I do remember an individual standing at town meeting, I don't know if any of the rest of you, and it was at least a few years ago, saying, I moved from a different place in the state, and I moved specifically, do you remember that?
I remember.
I don't know who it was.
And he said he would move if it went through.
Yes.
And I'm looking at my husband saying, well, why did he buy a house right on the railroad if he was so worried about that, Did he not do his due diligence, and why, did he really think it would never, ever happen in Southampton?
Can you vote
No, I don't
again?
remember this, but I remember that, because we talked about it.
It was somewhere over in Brickyard, that area.
Well, the letter of intent, like, we got the funding, we have the promise of funding, I guess.
From where?
I don't know what the next step is.
Where is the promise of funding?
What did she say? She said that there was something.
We did have funding that I thought we had to return because
Yeah, we did get we got a land grant.
But then we had to return it?
Yes.
Oh.
How do you get something to a vote? Maybe I'm just not,
Just have it put on the warrant.
just like that. Do you need like...
Signatures
It has to
required.
go through
Yeah.
the select boards.
Yeah, you need to get.
Well, you
Well, as a resident, you can put whatever you want on,
Yes.
as long as you
Right.
receive signatures.
You just do a
You could have them
petition.
vote to
It's 20
close
25
City Hall, or
25
Town Hall,
signatures, is that
3 days a
right?
week.
Cool. Is that right? Is it
Is it
25?
that few?
Is it 25?
I think it's 25, but they were looking to make it more.
Like 50.
Yeah, 50.
But I don't know if it is 50, but
It was talking.
25.
So
Yeah.
no one's made it a vote again for what is it, Greenway or Railway?
The rail trail?
Rail
The
trail?
Greenway Rail Trail?
Rail
It hasn't, but I think a lot of it has to do
Greenway
with the
bike trail.
fact that you're not ready yet, or they haven't been ready yet. I mean, now that they have a letter of intent, which is some sort of commitment with the railroad that we would look to purchase the right of way, maybe it moves forward at some point. But it also becomes a balancing act, because if you don't have the land grant to purchase the right of way, which I doubt the state would give you money for that, maybe they would, but giving you money to purchase a right of way versus purchase actual
Well,
property.
And where would the money come? It has to come from
Well, it's
some line item within the state budget.
But according to this, for 2023, the state prioritized expansion project specifically lists the Southampton Greenway construction,
Right.
approximately 3.5 miles as a project, and then gives the number.
Right.
Yeah.
And further states that the total estimate programmed funds, 6 million and change.
But that's just for construction. So the state won't purchase you an
Right,
easement or
you
a
still
right
have
of
to
way.
get the land, they will pay for this would pay for the,
Are the same residents there from 20?
it's 80% federal, 20% non-federal.
I don't know.
I don't know if that means state or our own money.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It didn't say a match, a 20% match, they didn't say that. So, construction is slated to begin the spring of 2023. So it sounds like a done deal if we
You have 3 years to
come
secure the
to
property.
terms on the property. We can do GoFundMe.
Okay.
We may.
All right. So that one, and like I said, I would love the rail trail being at least East Street, right? That one's a tough one because it's $340,000 to procure something. Meanwhile, you're going to have competing projects in the queue, right? So the East Street Bridge is going to require some money, right? some
A lot of
town
money.
money, right? And so you go, once again, you go before a town meeting with, I'm gonna round up, but hey, we need $1 million for this bridge, and then we want 340 for the rail trail. You know, those are tough, because they compete with each other, and one cancels the other one out. Now,
Well, and the bridge has to be done. Like,
Right.
that's a $500,000 that has to be spent.
$500,000, okay, not $1 million, so that's good.
I thought it was up to $1 million.
So then they
Yeah, it's a
basically,
million.
It's $1 million. They redid the quote.
They did, but they're not positive that it has to be that. So maybe it's 700, 800,000.
Yeah.
A lot of it depends on what happens to the gas
How much
line.
they have to do.
It's the gas line that's the big
Okay.
issue. Because there's a gas line
Yeah.
right now, and what they're requiring us to do is to build a temporary bridge, and then put the gas line on the temporary bridge, and then build the new bridge, and then move the gas line to the new bridge. So they're kind of debating if they want to, go under or just do that.
But didn't the state award a large sum of money that we didn't actually use because?
Well, and it's still available to us, that $1 million until the end of June, and they're working to
the engineer's estimate was a
meet,
little.
yeah, we have all of that, and to meet that deadline, and it looks like we will,
I think we will.
which means we'll get the $1 million, but we have to come up, because the original quote was 1.5 million.
Yes.
Then when they came back, it was changed to, I think, 2.6 for the same work.
And there was some
So-
kind there was some
So-
kind of like,
So underestimated in the original
Yeah.
design.
Well, they found out more.
So, because originally it was, we just had to come up with $500,000 and we would have a new bridge, and that's not how it's working out. But maybe the idea is to roll all this up and take one big load and start fixing things.
now, I heard on the news the other night about another town that had something called small bridge construction monies from the state, and I looked it up under mass.gov, and there's this whole section on municipal small bridge repair construction.
So some of those could be dependent on grading of the condition of the bridge.
I see.
So some towns, the bridges are closed. So I'm working on it and related to work. There's a bridge in Coleraine that's been closed since Irene. After Irene, FEMA, MEMA, the National Guard, the Highway, Emergency Services, they went across that bridge back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. The day they were done,
They closed it.
the DOT came in shortly after and just closed the bridge. So there are bridges like that I think those grants are probably more applicable for, ones that have been closed due to, dilapidated conditions,
Yeah, we still have some
Crumbling.
life on this bridge.
Deck
It
underneath.
isn't in need of real total
Right.
replacement at this point.
So they may not deem it as emergent as some of these others.
Yeah.
Because there were still, like I said, there's bridges from Irene still being fixed, small bridges in the state. Roads have been closed for that long. This one guy parks here, or his house is here, the bridge is here. He has to drive all the way around to go up the main road. That's like 2 minutes from his house.
Right, I think, doesn't Mass DOT, they have some formula based on ridership or traffic, and
Yeah.
that's how they prioritize bridge projects. And like these bridges you see built out on Kings Highway in Westhampton, they're impressive, but it took years because there's just no ridership on that road.
All right.
Sorry I'm distracted, folks. My wife is flying back from San Francisco. She just got delayed in Charlotte, so, yeah, so I'm just kind of keeping track.
Yeah.
No problem.
Pick her up.
Well, I hope to pick her up
Yes.
today. That's the plan.
Finding a Bradley?
All right. Chapter 4, continuing. What else do we have?
I think we covered a lot last meeting. Enough for tonight.
I remember just feeling, and I think I said this, that it just felt like we were just reviewing it, okay, but what are the next steps to be really, and I think you covered some of that tonight. Maybe that does mean we break these goals up and really deep dive. It's interesting, I've only felt that emotion for this chapter so far, and I don't know if I've just mentally been lazy for chapters 1 through 3, or is there something about this chapter that...
One of them was housing, too.
Right, exactly.
Maybe you missed your calling.
Yeah.
No, I think we said at the beginning of
It's-
last meeting that this is a long chapter, has a lot of complexity,
Yes,
and it's
very
kind of a,
complex.
it's kind of an emotional thing on some of the...
And it does hit a lot of different areas, too.
Yeah. It's a hot topic in town, too, if you think about it. I mean, I've only been going to town meetings for 5 years, but there's always something about open space.
Yeah.
There's always something about recreation. There's always something about a lot of these items here. And it's important, it's complicated. There's a lot of things involved. Not saying that the others aren't important, but they're just not always looked at as much, I guess, or they're just not always there up front, because we talk about purchasing property here, purchasing property there. And
So, in terms of what Jim said at the last meeting and again tonight, which is really big, should we be taking some pieces of what we've talked about and making an action plan on just this chapter? Or what should we do? Should we look at any of those strategies and
These in particular?
begin to do something about ones that are
So-
pending or
Or to make sure we're just not missing anything that's...
So do we, just trying to think. So there's a lot of things in 4 that could work with the recent grant, right? That you talked about the speakers and what do we talk about. I think there's a lot in here that will be incorporated because of the master plan, or coincidentally, I think they just align with that.
Well, one of them is strategy 4.3A, establish priority areas and parcels for scenic preservation. That's one of them.
Yep.
Yes. 4.3A, review and expand the town list of designated scenic areas. That could be part of this grant, because what we were talking about was possibly doing some kind of like advertising of, let's have, a walk through scenic town, Volunteers can come and walk these lands or, kind of know your town. So that could be 4.3B. And what else?
4.2C, is that, what's that on your spreadsheet? Is that green or red? Is it
4.2C.
updated every 5
Ongoing,
years?
ongoing.
Yeah, that's definitely ongoing, and that's,
Has it been updated every 5 years?
that was what Marla held up at the last
Okay.
meeting and said, it's out of date, we got to do it, and it's happening right now.
So on this, visual guy color, that's yellow at best, if not,
Yeah, it's yellow.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's,
Because we know about it, at least. I mean, it is there, right? Some of these we have as ongoing, and, we may not even have an idea of the status. At least with that particular one, we know it's in progress or being thought of.
yeah.
We know people are looking at it and they say, yeah, this is a problem, we need to get this updated, this is...
Right.
Well, I still go back to the fact that we need, when we talk about established priority areas for scenic preservation, not all of those are, some of those are already privately owned. So we need to understand what property is in chapter, and then
Yep.
somebody needs to put it in some kind of priority order, because we can't afford all of them.
And that's part of what's happening, yeah.
And that will be part of the 10,000.
Right, yeah,
Great.
one of the assessors.
Great.
April is starting to put that list together.
Good.
And that'll be reviewed by the Open Space Review Committee.
Good. So
Recommendations.
that would handle this. And it's crazy here, because it's planning board and conservation, says nothing about assessors.
Okay, so there's another
In the
point.
goal.
And there was no Open Space Review Committee.
Right.
At the time of this
yes,
MPI.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
So that's all part of goal 4/2 total.
Yes.
Excuse me.
And 4C, and 3C.
Yeah.
And there you go. We've got a plan for 6 of them.
But here it says adapt overlay zoning districts that protects it. So shouldn't the zoning board be on this too?
That's 4.3C.
Right.
Well, yeah, if it's an overlay.
Does the zoning board establish the zoning districts? Do they just enforce? I don't know. That is the big question that comes up. Whose responsibilities
That's a
are
good
these?
question.
That came up last time. Where do these responsibilities lie?
Well, they were zoned eons ago, right?
Yeah.
So to make the change, it goes before town meeting.
Yeah.
So I think they make
Who makes the proposal to go before town meeting?
I would say an interested party. Realistically, right, you could petition to have your property rezoned. Who's to say you can't?
Well, okay, so actually it could be the open
If
space.
town meeting agrees to
could
it.
suggest
Anybody
different
can petition
zoning.
anything.
Right. So, I mean, I think it's your,
Yeah,
whoever puts
based
it
on what April
forward.
finds.
Yep, exactly, based on what April finds.
Okay. This is very complicated.
It is, and I don't know the best way to handle all of it. So
That's partially what I'm struggling with, is what is our mission as a group? It's not to solve the problems,
just to learn.
To ask the questions. I
it's
guess.
to
Maybe nudge those
redirect
who are
and do
responsible.
some nudging and to possibly reprioritize, but it's not to solve the problems.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does, right? Because we can't be the planning board, conservation commission, select board, local cable company. We can't be all those responsible parties, but we can identify it, and through our relationship with the select board, through the relationship with the other boards, we can bring this forward, saying this is where we are, these are what we've completed, these are things that we know we're going to try to complete as a town. Some of these other ones are still out here. We have lots of short-term goals with no action. And, you know, maybe it becomes recommendations to put attention there.
Right. I think we're supposed to be looking for holes, we're looking for things that are now out of date, and, you know, gathering the information in order to, you know, revise and move on.
And get a sense of what has been completed,
Right.
what hasn't.
Because we could easily
why
get
it
bogged down
hasn't,
in trying to
'cause
solve it.
Conditions may
Because
have
we're
changed.
solvers. I mean, every one of us in this room likes to solve things.
But you're right. You're right.
Careful
You're right.
going down
That's-
that rabbit hole.
That's why it's appearing to be so complicated, because
Right.
we don't have all the answers.
Right.
And we shouldn't. It's just to kind of restate the issues.
So,
Kickstarter.
with that great timeout, I think it's very good that you did that, because I was staring at this going, I have to stop this conversation, but I don't know the best way to express why I feel like we need to stop it. I think that's perfect.
That was very, yes.
Yeah. You know, do we want to take 5 more minutes for chapter 4 and kind of, if there's anything left, we note it
Yes.
and we move on to 5? And then we do need to think about the revisiting and reviewing, and however we coordinate that. I don't want to figure that out tonight. I'd rather have kind of more of the board here, because more resources, we may be able to find the best solution to do it. But at least for tonight, I think we have hammered home a lot of the items with chapter 4. We've looked at some goals more than we have on some of the other chapters. We've notated some areas where we may, you know, have some green boxes in the future, which I think is important.
One thing I think I'd like to propose is that I take the back of the chapter, the list at the end of the chapter, photocopy it and share it with the Open Space Review Committee, which is meeting tomorrow night.
Okay.
And just sort of have them sort of think about the language of what we're doing with the grant and make it coincide with what's actually written here as the goals and strategies, so that hopefully in, 4 or 5 months, we can come back and go, check, 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 check,
Yeah.
check.
That'd be
So,
I think it's great. And I think we have to do that with other chapters as well.
I agree.
yeah.
This one's probably been the most, I think everyone's been the most engaged. We had representatives attend last week, so I think it really resonates with people, and we know that if we take this and go somewhere with it, we'll probably get very good feedback, and we're going to have to do that with other
And
chapters as
possibly
well.
even propose, and we've talked about this a little bit, having, a couple of joint meetings with other boards and committees, and maybe a joint meeting with this committee and Open Space, maybe a couple months down the road, and
Yep.
see how we're doing, so that it's not a parallel process, that we're both agreeing we need to all be working together, but we're not.
Right.
Yep.
I
Okay.
think that's good.
Can I just have some questions about goal 4.4? Like the weekly farmers market and the community garden. Was that discussed last week and I just missed it?
It was discussed a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
I think, so one of the responses
And I don't want you to
we
repeat it.
received
Just-
was, why would I go to a farmer's market when I have my own farmer's market?
From one of the agricultural groups in town.
Okay.
So I think a farmer's market is a great idea, but if your farms have their own sort of little niche environment, they may not necessarily need a farmer's market. Now, the bigger of the farm could put on its own farmer's market and invite everyone to come, or, figure something out, but I think we don't have 20 different,
We have
like,
diversity, yeah.
we don't have someone who just does eggs and someone who just does blueberries and
Right,
asparagus
right.
and,
I was just curious about that because it establishes it as a priority in the short term, and I
Right.
didn't see a lot of clamoring for that in
Right.
town. So I was just curious about that
I think so there is the Agricultural Commission, right?
right.
Farmers markets are relatively easy to set up. If they wanted to set one up, they could pretty easily.
Right.
They do meet, right? So, and there are sort of festivals and things that go on, like Vicious has put on a few this summer. They were great, craft fairs, and you can buy things there. And
Yeah.
They were fun. But I think a lot of these, or some of these places, probably they sort of meet that goal their own way. Fletcher's
Yeah,
Farm
so they
is a
don't need to
great
go
place to go
anywhere
in the
else.
fall,
Yeah.
right? We did.
Oh, so that's an interesting point of not meeting the letter of what's written here, but meeting the spirit of it.
Right.
And I think that may be something that we capture. How are we meeting the spirit of this goal, if not the actual words in it, the weekly farmers market? Because there is a lot of community around our local farmers, even if we don't have that.
Yeah.
Who do we have besides Bashista and Fletcher? I'm trying to...
Oh my gosh, we have White House
White
Farm
House,
right down the
right.
road from you and me.
Yes.
And she goes to
White
both
House.
the
North
Florence
Hampton.
one and the
Yeah, she's
Northampton
busy.
one.
You're
Yeah,
right.
she's very busy. And then there's
Well, it's a farm though, too, right? So the
Yes.
vineyard's a farm.
The
Vineyards of Farm.
Yes.
yeah.
But are they gonna,
They do. Well, I don't know if they do now,
Right,
but they should.
They don't do
They go to
anything.
I think a lot of this is
Yeah.
like real estate location. Look, if you had a farmer's market, like at Red Rock Park on a Saturday,
That would make
that would,
sense.
Right.
people would go. And I think the farmers who can't speak for them, they might be reluctant. Once that started,
right.
they would, because every...
When
farmer
someone buys
market-
apples there and they're not buying them up there,
Yeah, right.
there'll probably be some engagement.
Right.
Because if I want to buy some apples, and I want to buy some pumpkins, I want to buy some wine, I got to drive all over to support my local, rather than one-stop shopping. And every farmer that I know of who's at the Hampton, Florence, Easthampton Farmers Market also has a stand at their own farm. That doesn't preclude them from going to
Doing
the farm.
this, yeah.
So I think it's just about,
Right. The one in Easthampton took a while to get going, and then they had someone dedicated. That was
Right.
what she did, was
Yeah.
to start that up.
someone
And
really needs to lead it.
who was given funding by the town in order to start that.
really?
Oh,
Yeah, the
really?
city,
I
yeah,
didn't
she
know
got city
Right next to the bike
funding
trail,
do
that one that happens
Yep.
in the parking lot there?
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah.
And it was in another location before, wasn't it? And
It
got
was
moved?
across the street, and then it got moved there. Yeah, because it's in the municipal parking lot.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's very, it's supported by the city.
Oh, I'm thinking of a different one, the one down behind Tandem and the Family Dollar parking lot.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's
Oh,
now,
that's a
it's
municipal
now,
parking
no,
lot?
it's not anymore. It's not there anymore.
Oh,
It's across
it was
the,
municipal.
yeah.
Oh, I
It's
apologize.
across the, yeah, it's across the way,
Okay.
just on the other side of the bike trail.
Oh, where the fire department is?
Yes, yes.
So I'll-
But there was city support to
I
do
see.
that.
I see.
So that's interesting because the Florence one's at the Civic Center, Northampton is right on the street.
Right.
So there's some town.
There's city support, absolutely.
Should we put that before the select board and say, can we have it in the parking lot up, right out here, you know, up behind?
I think Conic Park would be good, pavilion.
There's
I mean-
a school, if it's on the weekend, you can do it in the school parking lot.
It's a lot of work for people to bring their goods. They get up at,
There is.
Right, you
4
really don't have
a.m.
enough traffic to make it worth their while.
have to,
That's
yeah.
why.
And it took them a long time in Easthampton to develop that.
I know.
You know, they really worked at it. There were a number of years where
But-
they didn't have it, but they just kept going because there was some funding
Right.
for it.
To me, that's why if you could somehow get an agreement with the owners of Red Rock, there's just a lot of traffic there. People-
Right.
Yeah.
the owners is famous. That's, I think he owns the whole plaza. The one who just opened Michael's, I think that's famous. Isn't that his name? You know who I mean? He used to own Opa Opa.
And what about the community garden? Has that been a priority in any sense?
That did not come up.
Okay. So I don't know if there's a buzz about that, and then,
But I think you're back to your point. Is it important if there isn't a buzz? If there's nobody clamoring to get one?
Like, we have a farm share, so someone takes care of our community garden.
right.
Right, I mean, I don't know, I'm not saying that's, everyone does, but, you know, there was no space, so we bought a farm share and,
As a more rural community, and we don't have, I
Right.
mean, people have their own space, except, I mean, we don't have a lot of apartment buildings and things like that where people don't have property to
Right.
do
right. Well, I
their
think,
own gardens.
But they have an amazing one in Belchertown, and those people have a lot of.
I think this goal, those two goals though, for instance, those are tied directly into repurposing the old town hall, right? So they had the renditions of this grand town building doing something, some sort of esplanade, walking area, food. I think this goal ties in directly to that because that's where they intended
have
these
all
two
this
events to
happen.
take place.
And I-
You know, and maybe these goals are just offshoots of properly developing that building, right?
Okay.
So if you put all three of those together, the most important one that I see would be the building itself, right? How do you repurpose the building? What do you repurpose it to? A community space? What do you do in the community space? You have a garden. What do you do with gardens? Farmers come down and, you know, I kind of see that's how it goes. And if you look through a lot of these goals, you'll see they link back. So this one is the predecessor of all these other little goals, but without the big goal, the little goals can happen, but not the way they were envisioned.
So where are all these renderings?
They were in you didn't read the whole plan? You didn't read the whole master plan?
I did, but no, I know where they were. I'm saying, where are they now?
I don't know, I know they're on a piece of
What's
8.5
it called,
by
the old
11
town
paper,
hall?
I don't know.
No. I just, to visually see what their intentions were. That's all.
Oh, you mean what?
They're probably in the old town hall, I mean, this was written.
I
when it was
remember
still
they were up in the
occupied.
library, right? Is that where they were?
They could still be there.
Oh, I don't know about that. Well, we can find out.
And
What do you mean, like things that said come and look and vote? Is that what you
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, I know I saw them.
We need
I think I saw
Christina
them.
then.
Has the inventory of farmland been done that we know of?
Don't know.
For 4A with ownership information? That was also a short-term thing.
Yeah, a lot of the short terms weren't done.
See, so we talk about that, right? So inventory of farmland. I'd be curious, you think it would have to have been done, right? If you have an agricultural commission, you invite, unless you just invited the farmers you knew to be on the commission, but you would think that has to be somewhere, right? Whether it's in
There's some
a tax-related
Right.
document that's filter and sortable, and you can find
The
that.
assessor's office should have that information.
So once again, I don't know the point of that goal. So I understand the need to have a list of farmers if you do something farmer-related, but do you need to develop a brand-new list if you can go to the assessor and say,
You can obtain that.
right, it's obtainable
Readily.
today.
But they specifically say they want to coordinate the efforts with the prioritized list of key open space parcels for acquisition. So that, I mean, so they are trying to combine the what do we have now and what might be coming available at some point. So they see it as part of an open space.
And so those were, and I had skipped ahead, did they,
Right here.
those are two separate goals?
They're all together. They're together. 4A is compile and coordinate. It's really
Okay.
two things that are wrapped in one.
And I have a question, why the school committee's included in that?
Why not?
I wondered about that too.
I think so.
There's some copy and paste errors.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what, those paintings, or the pictures might have been, are they online somewhere? I don't know, I got
After you
stuck.
just
There
gave
is
Francine a
interest in
hard
more
time.
agriculture in Southampton. It's just different. The interest in farmland in Southampton is for the purpose of growing marijuana and having greenhouses. I'm serious.
That's what the interest is currently.
It's not
That's
going to
what
be
the
outside,
interest
it's going
is.
to be in buildings though.
No, I know, in greenhouses and things, yes, it
Yeah.
has to be protected.
It won't be out.
That's the, that's the.
So the town's
interest in-
getting inquiries.
Well, we're going, you go to the town meeting this week, that's when
Yeah.
they're going to review the bylaws too.
Okay.
Yeah. No, but there was an attorney who
Right.
told me that he gets daily phone calls from people,
So Dick Evans,
Right.
yes,
he's Mr. Marijuana.
asking about the availability of farmland and small processing facilities.
Yeah. Okay.
Not specific to Southampton, but including Southampton. I mean, it was, this the whole general area now that
We saw them,
we have
maybe it
all
was
this, we have all
somewhere
this
else.
land
I don't remember.
and the law passed.
Is that encompassed in the moratorium or no? Cultivation?
Well, the moratorium
Moratorium is over.
is over,
It's over.
and
Open up your
we're
stores.
going to have, the bylaws are going to be reviewed at the special town meeting next Tuesday, and it's going to be the adult use as well as the medical. Medical is required in every town in the state. Adult use has to be passed by the town as to whether we want it, and there'll be, all the aspects will be reviewed in terms of where will it be grown, how will it be distributed, what are the rules around it, so many feet from a daycare center, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and that's
How many
part of
feet?
it. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Is that an offshoot of Easthampton's issue?
I have to look, I'm sorry, Mike.
I think
Because there may be
each
one
town-
going in near our daycare.
Yeah.
It was a big issue because
In Southampton?
No, in
Oh, in Easthampton, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
they didn't seem to have the same threshold distance as you would a
Yeah.
school.
I think each town can set their own.
Section,
Yeah.
Oh, really?
the adult
It's not
use
a state
section.
It's in the adult use section, yeah.
I don't think so.
So we should be going to, tomorrow night, to hear Robert Floyd's, prep meeting, if you want to go hear that. That's tomorrow at 7 o'clock.
And then the following week,
Is the
on
special town
Tuesday,
meeting.
right?
on the
Yeah.
5th,
Yeah.
Tuesday.
Yep. And I guess there's, from what I'm hearing, I'm not certain this is going to happen, but a lot of people are saying, why would we want to miss on the possibility of this kind of revenue coming into our town?
Well, we already may have.
Well, we weren't first, we weren't
No, I
second.
know, but
We may have missed the big hits, like Northampton and Easthampton, sorry, no pun intended, but, is this, let's go back to post-prohibition era when I wasn't born, but, people said, oh, we want no liquor stores in our town, but then every single town has
right.
a couple.
But what you're saying, I mean, we may have missed it. I mean, we could
The big
pass them,
ones.
yeah.
Right.
Because I think Easthampton is going to issue something like 11 or 12 licenses.
Yeah.
We may have missed it.
There's one at Eastworks.
Yeah.
There's one there.
The one in
And so
Northampton,
is it
on
East-
the lines for that.
Yeah.
We
It's
drive,
outrageous.
you drive by and you can't get through.
That's
Just
right.
say we missed it, but can you imagine that in Southampton?
See, I don't think it would be though. I think Northampton's a fluke of its location, because the Eastworks mill has no problem with traffic, and I have no idea what it looks like back there. But every time I drive by, I've never had like a traffic issue. There's never been
That's because
huge
everybody's
cars.
in the back.
Yeah.
Well, and they got on top of it,
Right.
So I don't know if we've totally missed it. I just
I
don't
mean,
know.
ongoing, there may be.
Well, if you're looking at the
Like
cultivation
liquor stores.
use, right?
And
Right.
then there's the
Maybe
cultivation.
That's where we have an advantage
It's
with so much
capitalized.
land.
But it isn't going to be outside. It's going to be in a building.
Right.
So-
But it's-
But you can still build, I mean, look at some
It's
of
a
the
business.
greenhouses they have in the Deerfield area. Those greenhouses are
It just can't be seen by
Enormous.
the road.
Right.
Right.
50,000 square feet. I mean, they're
Can't be
huge,
what?
some of them
Seen
together.
when you're on the road. So
No,
if
it's
you,
still not going to be outside. It's going to be in a facility to grow it. It's not going to just be, behind
Like
someone's
corn.
house.
Can't
Yeah.
be like how they grow corn in
I
the
thought you
field.
just couldn't see it from the road.
No, I think it's an actual, you have to have it inside a building.
So that people aren't coming in.
Well, that's the
Harvesting is
concern,
there.
yes.
I should tell my aunt.
Oh, she's a builder?
So it's-
Why, she's dying
essentially, it's like,
to grow it? Or where's your aunt? No, no, we don't.
Talking about, building a tax base, bringing business in, this is a business that actually fits Southampton as an agricultural
Well, the
community.
profile, yeah, that's what I said, the interest in.
Farmers market.
Right,
We-
that's right.
That's one place where we
Megan's
have an
aunt.
advantage.
At the market.
Get your brownies.
Think about the things that were voted down, right, in the previous
Right.
Yeah.
3 chapters, things that wouldn't fly, but, well, this might be okay.
We laugh because we're all adults, but guess what? Another generation, nobody's going to be laughing about this. It's not going to be silly. It's just we laugh because we grew up in an era where it wasn't legal.
You weren't allowed.
I was on the West Coast, just a quick private story, and my
not
little
private.
granddaughter loves to wear bandanas, loves to. So I found this great one, and she didn't have any in green. So I found this great bandana. I bring it in, and my son goes, "Mom, those are marijuana leaves." I said, "I like the color." He couldn't stand it. And Evie says to me the other day, "You bought me a cannabis bandana." She's 11 years old. And she's perfectly serious about it. Well, it's no big thing to her. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I brought my granddaughter a weed bandana. Because I like the green.
Weed pusher.
Sorry.
All right.
Okay.
Chapter,
We're getting
Interesting
punchy,
viewership
sorry.
for this meeting. We're going to see
Here we
a
go.
spike.
I think we should,
chapter 5.
it's an hour and a half into this so far.
Do you want to,
I think we should let the rest of the committee get here before we go to chapter 5.
okay.
Just, I don't know what everybody else
I would
thinks.
like
That's
a
my
reread of
thought.
Sure.
Because I haven't
I would like a
reread it.
reread, kind of reframing myself about what our goal is. I just think that helped me to
Yeah.
Yeah.
voice that.
So if you,
No, I appreciate it. I think it's really good.
It was the impulse to solve.
you could send that out.
So I'm going to finish the formatting. I have some sort of incoherent notes in here I'll have to clean up.
Okay.
Things that I just typed when I was thinking.
Do you just want to clean that up and I can clean up the formatting if you don't have
Yeah.
time? Because I can do that and I actually enjoy that kind of stuff, so.
Okay. We will do that, and then, yeah, we'll kind of make it shareable, emailable. Even if we make updates, I'm thinking about posting this on our MyTownGov.
That's fine.
What does the group think? Because the MyTownGov, right, so you can post a bunch of documents there,
Right.
which I'm now able to do.
Oh, good.
It's taken 2 months, but I can do it. Turns out I had to change my password. You couldn't keep the dummy
same.
password they
Yeah.
sent
Oh,
you.
is that what it was? And Lucy didn't know that?
Oh, she did know. I think she just assumed most normal people change their password. I just got the dummy
So you
one.
as a real dummy. You were a real dummy, okay, gotcha.
So anyways,
Nice.
you post things on here. I think it's important to share some of this, especially when we get into statusing and moving forward and, doing things. So
Yeah.
I think once we get it sort of clean, post it, and then as we make updates,
I like that idea.
repost it.
Yep.
Because it's accessible to everyone. We don't have to set up a new share site. I don't know how much we're allowed to post, but we might be able to post other things. I'm going to try to upload like the master
It's
plan
not a
on there.
mystery, because it shouldn't be a mystery to anyone what it is
No.
that was originally planned and what we're thinking about it, and someone might have information to add,
Yeah,
which we need.
exactly.
It's a good idea.
All right. And
When is our next meeting?
Now, is there any way to like sort this, if I can say it this way? We need to keep it this way, but the same thing in another version that would sort by
Like a different
committee.
visual.
Yeah, yeah.
So then we
Make
can
different
maybe, so that maybe we can hand it out, or each of us can take responsibility for interfacing with one of the committees to meet with them and kind of
There's ways.
bring it back.
Excel can do amazing
Okay.
things. So,
Pivot table or something.
yeah, exactly. And I think we'll get there. It'll take a little bit. There's definitely some manual work in that, but
Okay.
I think we can get there and make it work.
Okay.
So,
Is there a way to post links, instead of documents? Like an ongoing link on the page?
on that page, probably not. I don't know the last time it was updated.
It's actually a better idea, since you update the documents, you're not re-loading them to the site.
Like on a
you
Google
just-
Docs and just make it non-editable?
Right.
That way we never have to touch it again. Like to keep updating it.
Yeah, so you can only put files in.
Yeah, okay.
That stinks.
Yeah, it does. I mean, this works well. I don't know how often this has been updated.
Francine, on the warrant, on the first page, the medical marijuana attachment and the adult ones are the same, so we're missing the adult one. It's just the medical one. Just FYI, because I was just looking at it, so.
It's not a
The
second
bylaw
page.
here and here, no,
Oh,
this is
really?
identical
Oh.
to this. So this says medical
So
marijuana.
they
was a
put that
mistake.
one twice
Yep,
Uh-oh.
and not the adult.
And where, was this on the town meeting site?
Yes.
On the town site?
yep.
Under documents and forms?
It's on the same, no, it's right on the front page.
So
for the
we need
special
to
town
let
meeting.
Lucy know.
Is it,
The town meeting,
all
I mean, the town.
Under the attachment for town meeting?
All right, I'll just email her right now.
Okay.
Under documents and forms, I think it's right. But, yeah, it's...
So next meeting, I apologize for not posting Monday. That's my fault.
Happens.
We've all done it.
I am unavailable this coming Monday.
The 4th.
Yep. Are we open to the 11th? Is that a holiday?
No.
The 18th
The 18th is a holiday.
11th is okay for me.
is all right for me.
Looking okay for me.
I know it's good for George.
Yeah, Monday was his,
And the following week is the holiday, so we probably don't want to go
Right.
like a full month.
Yep.
So
Right.
the 11th and then maybe the 25th.
Yeah, that sounds good.
so we're going the 11th and the 25th.
7 PM,
Yeah.
this room. You'll post, you'll book the room. Okay. And I will get the,
I'm gonna post right now. All right, before we entertain a motion to adjourn, any other items we didn't miss, anything, or we didn't touch on, anything we should follow up with before next week?
What chapters are we reading?
5.
Aye.
Just 5.
Just 5. I think we
We're not
were a
meeting on
little...
the 4th.
And then 6 for the next
So
one?
11th.
Okay.
11th and the 25th, because he said next week, so I got a little,
No, he said he couldn't meet
okay.
The 11th?
on the 25th.
Okay, got it.
You coming to the meeting on the 4th?
Yes.
Full meeting? Okay. What time are we meeting? I'm sorry, 7? 7?
Yeah, 7 o'clock.
7, yeah.
All right, with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn,
Second?
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I think the
8:30.
ayes have it.
Thank you.
8:29.